Yeah, the CCL postseason is upon us. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash. Miami Redhawks versus Texas A&M Maroon. Another kind of not LCQ play-in portion, but in the group stage of things at the very, very least, Cash. And of course, this is, at the generalistic terms of it, an elimination match in the brewing.
It absolutely is a lot, at stake for these teams here tonight. Really, it comes down to if either squad lose, that kind of forfeits their fate out of their hands and into that of, who can win this match, who loses this one. So, really, you're coming in this, it sounds simple, but to win tonight, that way you can keep your fate in your control and really kind of dictate your path from here on out.
Yeah, this is a West Group C matchup, but the big thing here is not only do each of these teams have to win this in order to keep their playoff hopes alive, but they're going to need some help after that fact as well. For the side of TAMU, we'll just talk about them quickly. They either need to beat Akron or UCO lose to Miami if they want to go ahead and make it out of playoff groups. Now, that also comes after they get a win inside of the series, so those different scenarios there are not available and will happen unless Texas A&M Maroon are able to move outside of this win against the Redhawks. On the other side, though, for the Miami Redhawks, they would need not only to beat TAMU Maroon, but they would need to beat UCO to clinch, or TAMU beats Akron, leaving Miami to win that tiebreaker. So hopefully you understand that. If not, we'll re-hit that a little bit later on in the broadcast. But as we kind of just go over everything else here, I think it's time that we look at not only the head-to-head between these two teams, but take a deep dive at these rosters as well.
Yeah, and having a look at the head-to-head, I mean, on paper, this is about as balanced of a matchup as you could want going into the night. Of course, for Miami Redhawks, they look a little bit better in the hard point, but that balances out in the respawn mode of control for TAMU, where they're sitting at 11-4, but running down it, I mean, 21-10 for the Redhawks and hard point, 12-10 search and destroy, 7-7 in control, and not the best control record, right? But you boast that 21-10, and that's something that could really, give you the ability to close this out in 4 potentially. So for Miami, that's what I'm looking at, and for TAMU, you also boast a fairly clean record too on the other side between the modes of hard point and control. Search and destroy, real coin toss.
Yeah, and I mean, overall, you look to the head-to-head, sure, it seems relatively similar all the way down and through, but of course, for the side of Miami, there's a little bit of buzz in the background, and of course, they've had a roster change recently here inside of the playoffs. We'll take a look at the Miami Redhawks roster overall inside of this matchup, and you'll see an immediate change. Q-Pan out, Rando, Brewski, Panda, and Evil will be the 4 players on the side of Miami Redhawks for the match tonight, and from what we can tell, going forward throughout the rest of the season for the Miami Redhawks. Again, both of these teams in a must-win scenario. And for the Redhawks, having to make that roster change here towards the end of the season, whether it will make or break them is yet to be seen.
Yeah, and we've seen roster changes at this stage in the season pan out well, and we've seen some kind of fall to the wayside. So this is one where we kind of need to see that instant gel factor tonight, where these guys come together, play well off of each other, and can come out with the win, because this is one you'd hate to make that change, and then it ends your season here.
Yep. Opposite side of things, same roster, no changes for the side of TAMU, but you are going to be looking for Quiet, Blake, Deuce, and Gyra. Again, this is a roster we've kind of had the opportunity to watch multiple times throughout the year. It's been fun to watch this team grow as a cohesive unit. Of course, again, still needing a win here instead of this best-of-5 series. This is really going to be where the test comes for this roster to see what they've gone ahead and put together over the course of the year.
Yeah, it's really interesting to get to watch over teams that have kind of stuck together the entire season, because, like you had just said, this is where you get to put all of that to test, all of that hard work, all of the behind the scenes that we don't get to see on broadcast. Does it come together and pan out for you here in a do-or-die situation? That's what I'm looking to see from these 4 guys tonight.
Take a look at our maps overall. This has been kind of the theme of Vanguard recently, at least for the matches that I've been able to watch over in some of the series that I had this past weekend, and even last week instead of the CCL. Tuscan to start things off here for maps 1, 2, and 3. So the 3 maps that we are guaranteed will have Tuscan for all of those. Gavutu and Bacage will round out this best-of-5 series later on, but of course, starting off with that Tuscan hardpoint is really where we're going to draw our focal point towards. Miami Redhawks, as you mentioned beforehand, Cash, are that better team in hardpoint on paper. But again, with that roster change, this is, I guess, where we can kind of talk about what to expect of this roster, maybe what we might not be able to predict.
Yeah, so it's one where, I mean, you look at the hardpoint map specifically, as you were alluding to, in Tuscan and Gavitu. That's going to be a focus for the ARs, for the Redhawks. How well can they come out and fry tonight? Of course, Tuscan, you have a little more room for your SMGs to make more of an impact on the map, but really, as you get to that map 4, no matter where the series is for Miami, they're going to need to make sure they have a strong map 4 if it ends up going the distance. That's one where they need to get their ARs to power positions, need to be able to lock down lanes. Tuscan still plays the same way in that regard. So for Miami, given the substitute change, I really want to see how well these ARs play together and play off each other tonight.
Yeah, I mean, AR presence can be extremely crucial here on Tuscan, as we've come to see time and time again throughout not only the season, but throughout the entire year of Vanguard. Of course, though, those SMGs have to be firing on all cylinders if you want to guarantee yourselves a map 1 win, or at least put yourselves in a position for consideration for a map 1 win. Overall, though, I think looking ahead at this series, the kind of the big question mark that I have, at least for the Tuscan, is Tamu Maroon. Sure, you've had the entire season to gel together. Are you going to be able to battle yourselves on a map against the Miami Redhawks with aggression, or is that playstyle going to continuously, rely on a more passive structure? Because I've seen Tamu get aggressive, and I've also seen them have a similar playstyle to some teams that are just going to, sit in the back, wait for those players to make that push, and then start their assault on the map. I just hope that you take advantage of the situation put in front of you, where you have a weak link on the Miami Redhawks roster, and not necessarily a weak link, but a weak link in terms of overall practice, and then be able to attack them in its rawest form.
Yeah, that's one where, like you were saying, you'd like to see them maybe step up in that, aggression to where you attack and exploit those weaknesses, given that they kind of play to what teams give them in and around the map. Maybe we see them use that and, like you had said, turn it into something where they're capitalizing more on different map positionings, playing a little aggressive. I really want to see, given this roster and how strong they've played together all year, how well they do an ebb and flow of, okay, now we need to play a little bit more passive just to kind of pump the brakes, and now, okay, now let's hit these points, and now let's really get aggressive through these lanes. So we'll get good insight to that here. I mean, of course, on the first 3 Tuscans, but really on hardpoint as well, if the comms are clean coming out of Tamu, and if they're really ready to hit the gas and take off in the series.
Beautiful architectures, 5 different hills that we'll go through in each cycle of rotations here on Tuscan. Miami Redhawks trying to punch their ticket through. Of course, both teams needing help after a win inside of this best of 5 series. Cash, overall, thoughts and feelings going into this series?
I'm feeling, for Miami, given how they have a substitute in and, how strong they are in the respawns, I still feel, given their prowess and the respawn modes, that they're going to be all right in this series. Now, it may go the distance a little further than they would have intended or liked, but given the substitute, I mean, we've seen it pan out well for teams last week as well. Of course, this is a different team, but I think it's something for Miami that they know what they have to do. The job and the work are cut out ahead of them, and they're going to come in and take care of business. They're not going to take anything light. For Tamu, when you see a sub on the other side, some teams can kind of take the foot off the gas and be like, all right, let's just, let's come in with a little overconfidence, and that can end up costing them. So for Miami, I think they're really dialed in and going to be focused for this one.
Texas A&M have had a great season put in front of them, a great opportunity ahead of them to not only take this series, but advance themselves into that next round of playoffs, of course, with a few stipulations that would have to happen in the background after this series is over. Stuns and nades over the top to go ahead and kick off a Mixie point number 1 here, but it's the first 2 kills to go to the side of Tamu. Miami Redhawks going to be fighting from the outside in, and a 4-1 down already.
A 4 down, and that's going to be spawn flips, and Tamu, now they've got to turn around and be aware of that. They are, so they get clean bits of time, and they're also able to get P2 spawns off lurk already, and that was due to mid-map aggression and control from them. So you would kind of pose the question of, how do they come out in this series to kick things off? It's aggressive through the mid-map, and that awards them not only the first 30 seconds of P1 uncontested, but also mid-map control and P2 spawns.
Still winning the majority of their gunfights, ARs have done a phenomenal job of being able to keep players outside of P1 and lock down the initial time. It was that first initial break for the side of Texas A&M that allowed them to make their way up the map and then give themselves the best positioning as humanly possible. Looking at the top of the church, trying to find shots onto one, will jump down into the middle of the map and clean up that kill. Rotations over towards P2. We're in the favor of Miami Redhawks at first, but it's Texas A&M who now make a great rotation out, clean up the scrap times on P1, and now set themselves in a prime position for P2.
Evil gets a huge kill in church, and that sets up a pinch play where Tamu have to focus on that and kind of divide their attention. Deuce getting 2 on the site, and it's going to be Blake picking up the other one there in the back, so that's going to be a break back in for Tamu where they were just playing with a lot of awareness right now around the map. The 4-down split spawn, or the 4-down spawn that came in for them after P1, the split that came in here on the bench. They've got it all taken care of right now, and it's an all-white kill feed.
Oh, I mean, that's been 2 all-white kill feeds in a row. I mean, sure, it's a 4-to-1 trade in some circumstances, but at the same time, Miami has not shown any ability to win one-on-one gunfights throughout the majority of the hills. But Texas A&M look very, very good around each other right now. And sure, they're going to give up, these last 15 seconds and allow the Miami Redhawks to get out on the rotation. But you've put yourself at a 100-4 lead going into P4, or rather P3, and now you've already won a one-on-one gunfight through the back here. So now as Quiet starts to make his push up, try to get the player on towards that backside of Wine. Rando's going to be there. It's a one-on-one gunfight that you basically have to win here if you're the Redhawks. But now another one's going to fly all the way through the back. They are taking everybody out, winning the gunfights as necessary, and now got the backside spawns. Miami have gotten 10 seconds of initial time, and that's going to get contested here in just a moment.
Texas A&M have only given up 20 seconds between the first 2 hills. Now here giving up more time than they have the opening 2 hills of this game. But as we say that, it's Gyro on a 6 streak in the back, in control of spawns for the squad. Now they bully Miami out, and Miami really just have yet to find footing in this map. And it's hard whenever, like you had said, you can't win an individual gunfight. Gyro at 12-3, Deuce at 10-5. I mean, these are players not only who have full streaks, but are soaking up every bit of time, and you have Blake winning gunfights on transition. Nothing is going wrong right now for this A&M Maroon squad.
Nothing's going wrong. Everything is going right. A gunfight that Blake should not have been able to walk away with on Vando will fall in his favor. Only in the back, they don't realize that there is a player of the Redhawks there, but Blake will be the first one to push into the church. He challenged back to the second one up top, church, and now you actually spot the player all the way in the back once here. So if you're able to walk away with this kill, you might just be able to give Tamu Maroon those backside spawn. One-on-one gunfight, going to be one in the back. Now that's 5 in a row, back in towards the hill. A beautiful break yet again from Tamu Maroon. The last player there is Evil, up and towards the top of the church. Sure, you find one, but the damage has been done. Tamu, another good, clean break into P4.
Already eclipsing 150 points. For Miami, they have come out and had the stunner put on them. On paper, a few more wins than Tamu and Hardpoint, but given how this Hardpoint looks, A&M Maroon have done their homework. They have come out and absolutely went all gas, no brakes on this squad tonight. We, wanted to know if they were going to go passive, and that could switch given in the S&D, but right now, they are taking advantage of everything on the map and not letting Miami have anything for free in turn, making them earn every bit of time, and, well, that's not much here and with this hard point, but as they win rotation over to P5, they're at 165 points, and, I mean, given how much time they've been giving, they could win this one in the next couple of hills, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I'd like to think Miami can maybe get a break or two, or at least some contest time in here.
Every rotation, every lane that has been contested for the Redhawks has been shut down by Tamu Maroon. Player number 5, the last one there from Rando yet again. He was in a 1 versus 3 the last time. They get another 1 versus 4 here as he waits for the reinforcements to get to the hill. I like that he doesn't challenge too aggressively there, but it is going to be shot through that is going to be able to put in at least 1. Trades from Blake, though, with a nade and headshot over the top are going to be able to find 3 straight kills now, make it the 4th. Oh, they can do no wrong. Literally not a single thing has been wrong here from Tamu Maroon.
It hasn't. All 4 players are playing so cohesively in this P5. They've just got everywhere locked down that they need. Miami just can't find an opening, and when you can't win a gunfight, it makes it that much harder. Blake, if you would have got the snap on that, I mean, that would have just been the cherry on top of this game, but Miami trying to contest for some scrap time, but really focusing on this rotation. They need to find a way to get any bit of solid time or substantial amounts of it here. I'm going to say it's too little too late with everyone just about having full streaks and only 38 points on the board for the Redhawks. For Texas A&M, congratulations on doing the scouting report because it was perfect.
222 to 39, and they need 28 seconds left to take map number 1 here in this best of 5 series. What would be an elimination match if the Redhawks were to lose it? Texas A&M Maroon have now gotten themselves broken back in towards P1, where they were able to secure the entirety of it after that initial break here in map number 1. Blake around that left side corner. By the way, this is only the second set of rotations here. We've only gone through 5 hard points. This is number 6, and Blake almost wins another one-on-one gunfight to the front. Right now, the Redhawks are just trying to go ahead and not get 50-point club, let alone try to get their way back into the lead. Cash, this is one of those moments where you just say GT go next.
Yeah, for Miami Redhawks at this point, it's just trying to get the guns warm going into map number 2. Of course, you're going to see Tuscan once again, but it's something where you're just trying to get flown around the map, maybe clean up the comms a little bit. At this point, like you said, you can't sweat it too much. The way Blake has been playing, the way Gyro's been playing at 21-6, it's just something you can't combat, and obviously they didn't come out ready for tonight. So for Texas A&M, like you said, they win it in what should be 7 hills. Just about 60 seconds off the game clock in its entirety. So one of the quicker, more clinical hard points we have seen Hats off to Texas A&M for opening up with a stunner tonight.
250 to 55, absolutely putting the side of Miami Redhawks in a blender there throughout map number 1. That is a clinical performance, but we wondered what the side of Miami would look like without QPAN, without a leader on this roster. The answer is, well, the scoreline can just tell that completely in everything inside of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, look at the scoreboard and see what's going on, or if you watched any 30-second snippet of that match, I mean, there's not a ton to go over, just really impressive stat lines coming in from Texas A&M Maroon players. Of course, Gyro at 24-7, Blake at 25-9. I mean, there's really not much else to note apart from, again, that was, we talk about perfect hardpoint. Well, obviously that's in a comeback situation, but if you want to do it off the rip, that's perfect hardpoint. That's how you get it done and have a near 2-3 minute long match.
That's about as slow of a start as you can get out to for a team. So, I mean, that's probably the lowest point that you're going to be able to get to in this series. So for the Redhawks, good news is it's only up from here. However, to get to the point where Texas A&M Maroon is at right now, you're going to have to go a lot higher up than even the movie Up when the balloons are up in the air. You're going to have to take that house to the stratosphere if you want to even contest the side of Texas A&M Maroon. So, Cash, as we look forward, another Tuscan here. Of course, it'll be a search and destroy for map number 2. But it just looking at the Redhawks side of things, into the statistics, as ugly as they are, 6-19 from Rando, 2 players just getting to double digits, and then Brewski only barely able to get above double digits. We can go ahead and just take this off the screen. We won't embarrass them any longer. 22 non-traded, 21 untraded for the opposite side. That's 2 different players who had a total of 43 untraded kills upon them. No wonder why it was 250 to 55. So as we move forward here, Cash, well, what do you expect in the S&D?
I'm trying to think. Usually a hardpoint gives you like wonderful insight to how a series will play out.
True.
If I'm taking what I saw in that, Tammy Maroon in 3. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just I just given what that I'm taking what the map gave us. It wasn't long enough for me to see anything out of Miami to really kind of give. Of course, what I can say is it would be quite the testament for them to come out, take the hard reset that they need to reset for map number 2, and come out with something. And again, that's what's so nice about how these series are formatted. As you go to an S&D, you slow things down. You're afforded that opportunity to kind of back out of that high-speed game mode and really kind of get the pacing back to something you're more comfortable with. Again, at the tail end of that, I would just be hoping that those players are trying to get their guns warm, ready for map number 2. But out of Texas A&M Maroon, you don't really have to change anything. If you want to opt for that aggressive playstyle, which they were in the hard point, that's something they can definitely play around in the Tuscan, given that they got mid-map control early. That afforded them, well, everything. So for Texas A&M, keep doing what you're doing. And for Miami, again, this is what mental fortitude in playoffs looks like. Whenever you come out, get hit like this early on, let alone getting pushed to a game 5, how can you adjust and make the comeback? So for Miami, that's what I'm looking at for them in map number 2.
I know we've hit on it multiple times, but overall, this is a technical elimination match for these 2 teams. Now, it's not guaranteeing the winner into playoffs. They're going to need some help to get into the playoffs after these group stages, but the loser of this series most likely will not be able to make playoffs, and actually, I can pretty much guarantee you will not be able to make playoffs if they aren't able to win this, because both teams are at an 0-1 standstill right now inside of their group. So, overall here, Cash, my general thought of things was, most of the time for a team that loses map number 1, a change of pace in the game mode is typically enough to be able to, at least resurrect your series. But going back to the same map where you were just smacked on your bottoms from by the opposition, I don't know if that's going to be necessarily enough. Hopefully this first round will be good for the Redhawks, get the momentum swinging back on their side. Wyatt's going to be the first one pushed up outer towards that left, but Bruce is just laying down directly below that and might be able to get some good timing here for a first pick.
Does just that. Blake quickly on the trade, so a 3-3 situation, site control slightly leaning the way of Texas A&M. May look to get another pick before advancing towards the site, but player 7 and Panda will be interesting to watch over at P5 to see if he tries to make a flank through. And as he's clearing things out, we could see this happen, but now for Texas A&M, they have pushed beyond this A site, trying to get as much control of this side of the map as they can, and Evil Fun's a great pick to put it in the 3v2.
1 versus 3, Blake had a great hard point in front of him, but the Redhawks are able to strike back here on Tuscan early on. We asked how much of a difference it would make to go into an S&D. Well, it's still very, very early, but that's at least a good sign of things going in the right direction for the Redhawks here in map number 2. They go ahead and have a nice 4-1 round for themselves, only losing 1 life. That allows them to go ahead and go back to the offensive side and maybe make some noise, or at least get a bit more aggressive here. And now that the guns are a bit warmer than they were in map number 1, especially since the entire team combined combined for like maybe 25 kills.
Yeah, and I really like from Miami that they were able to sit back and let Texas A&M come to them. That's just recognition and awareness that, okay, they like to play aggressive. Let's see if they try to push beyond this A site, let them come right into their pre-aims, and well, that afforded them the round. Quiet does open up with the first blood here, and Miami can't find a way to trade that out effectively throughout the S&D. That definitely could get dangerous, but Evil, just as I say that on the trade, and now for Miami, bombs down in mid-map, and you do scoop it up, but your players are split, and you don't really have site control on anything.
Oh, did Deuce hear the audio cue of Panda in towards P5? He did. Okay, so he was able to turn it around, snuff that player out. Now it's a 1 versus 3. This time, though, it's for the Redhawks, who are in the 1v on situation. Texas A&M are spread all the way across the map, and Rando hasn't even got the bomb yet.
Just a line of defense, and player 3 and Deuce is just hovering over this bomb. Rando's going to have to either find 3 kills or get this bomb, and with 30 seconds left and still having to plant, I'm just going to imagine he's going to try to work a couple picks and see what happens, but nothing falls in his lap there. Texas A&M come out and respond quickly.
Nice little round there. Started with the first blood. They were able to just trade back and forth basically throughout the entire round, and then there was 2 quick kills in the middle of the map that gave them the man advantage towards the end of the round, allowed them to go ahead and find themselves within the lead. So Texas A&M, after a slow start in round number 1, bounced back on the defensive side in round 2. The Redhawks, though, they really didn't need to make too many adjustments here, going back to another defense, but I would like to see maybe a different formation out of them here to maybe adjust to what Texas A&M might do here on the offensive side for number 2.
I do like the 2 players being sent in mid-map, and already Evil is pushed across sitting below fire window, so a little bit of aggression in the mid-map out of them. They do have complete control of that, and now you see Evil trying to work a play here. In their L, Rando gets a pick on the top side of the map. So the defensive setup for Miami through the first couple of defenses have been solid, but it is Texas A&M able to trade that out. But it's about the same situation as we were in the last go-around. What happened was Texas A&M got a little over-aggressive and walked right into the preamps of the Miami Redhawks. We'll see if they opt to play this passive again, or do Texas A&M get the bomb down and force Miami's hand to make a play?
I mean, you stun checked the field, but the player was playing so far deep that you weren't actually able to get that check. So Rando's going to be able to get some great timing there, as you mentioned beforehand, directly right into the preaim of Rando. And now they're actually making a flank play, because here comes Panda with an MP40. Looks to the middle of the map, wasn't able to find anything just yet, but they actually read Panda and are able to spot him out, force him down, as now he's weak, and they're challenged back again, still with an MP40 in a longer range area in the map. And now guess what, Cash? They're going to rotate all the way over towards B, and this is something that the Redhawks did not anticipate and or even predict here inside of round number 3.
They didn't expect it at all, but I like how both players are grouped up. This is going to allow them to clear things up together and get over to the site. Now they have to isolate these gunfights and try to win them with MP40s. So quite the task ahead of them, especially retaking this B site. But nonetheless, these players are going to play in tandem and be able to trade out effectively at the very least. They do just that, get the first kill. Now just having to play for one more. If you play the trade, you play the round. That is not going to be the case.
Oh.
And Deuce finds them both. Well, you had one job. I mean, you had one job.
Yes, you say play the trades, play the round. You gotta get the trade in order to play the trades. Slides around the corner.
They split up the one time. I mean,
why was he not pre-aiming it? Like there's only one. There's 2 spots he could have gone. It was either behind all the way on the flank or back into the cut. And if you're making the flank all the way through the backside spawn, you don't expect another one to hit from the back. So obviously he's gonna wrap back over towards Platt. All he has to do is check his corner right there, because you probably are expecting a pinch play to start forming on that back corner, and boom, it's the second player there. It's so simple, but yet it just seems so difficult. Texas A&M, their second round in a row. That one on an offensive try after they rotate over towards B. We're back on offense now for the Redhawks, who seem to have wanted to get that bomb at least in towards that middle of the map by bottom P5. They're looking to work a pick right now, and Kyra's actually going to walk directly past one, but Rando didn't even see him.
Yeah. So anyway, Texas A&M, they're through on the flank. Not known to Rando, but that's going to be trouble for the teammates, because they're going to be like, Rando, how'd this flank happen? Rando didn't get eyes on anything, so now in a 2v3 situation, Miami find themselves once again in an unfortunate situation. He's got to win all 3 gunfights here in P5. Not going to happen. Rando left alone, and he's like, I haven't seen anyone this whole game, so I don't know where anyone came from.
And
Gotta clutch up here and go big.
for Rando here, you're like, oh, well, you know, if somebody had to jump up through the middle of the map and maybe go P5, like into top fire or something, and that would have been like the only way. But little does he know, directly behind him was able to run one. Okay, they line up for him. Deuce is going to challenge around the corner. 17 HP for Rando. Hops out the window. Going to spot him. Deuce runs back down. 6 in a row. You try with a pistol. You're going to be able to win it in a 1 versus 3. A game-saving S&D. And as Cash said, that is how you go ahead and make up for a play that was unfortunate at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, you made up for it. We'll forget about that. We won't even go back to it. But one thing, depending on how this match shakes out, I really would want to go back to is that Miami offense that they just had, given that they choked the 2v1 the way that they did. We'll see how that ends up playing out in the search and destroy, but for now they draw it up 2-2. They find themselves back on defense, and Texas A&M, they were able to get the bomb down and clutch out their last offensive go. Looks like it's going to be a straight hit towards B this time. They have a player over here in Panda who's been playing this P5 plat the entire time, but it's really aggressive through A, and this could get them intel early that it could be a B hit.
Oh, Panda's able to open things up with a nice kill. The wave MP40 over towards P5 shuts down what Texas A&M were trying to do aggressively over towards that site.
That flank.
Exactly. Now this allows two players to start making that wrap all the way on through. Brewski's actually not going to get spotted, and neither is the other player flanking through because Blake's in fire, but they aren't going to read this over towards the plot. First angle going to be there for Brewski. One kill down. Now it's a 2 versus 4. Dude's on the staircase. Tries to go ahead and trade it out. Can't do it. Have to be a 1 versus 4. Blake now coming in through the radio side of things, trying to go over towards plat. It's going to be a difficult gunfight to win against an MP40. You're going to be able to do it. Okay, the second one challenges. Maybe you win it, but you can't do it. The Redhawks still respond with 2 quick rounds of their own and find themselves with a 3-2 margin. Cash, just real quick, the one big thing in that 1 versus 3 from Rando, despite it being able to give them that advantage inside of that round and give them more momentum, they shut down the 6 streak that the side of Texas A&M had for themselves and negated the streaks.
Yeah, that was just huge. Again, like you said, it was 1v3, but the fact that you're able to get streaks off the board as well, you find yourself up 1 round, definitely a way to make up for the lack of earlier round awareness. So for Rando, on a 3 streak of his own, definitely was a big round for Miami, and one that could spell to them finding a lot of success here in this Tuscan search and destroys. Brewski opens up with the first button fire, and Deuce is trying to wait for something here. His attack's coming out, but doesn't have eyes on anything quite yet.
Good way to go ahead and trade things out for Texas A&M, getting them another advantage, and Quiet inside of top fire is going to be able to find number 3 here in the round. Once again, Rando in a 1 versus 3. There is a precedence for him to be able to clutch these rounds, but the bomb is in top fire, and Quiet should be able to play this nicely. But around the corner, actually not going to spot him. Rando's going to be able to find the first. Okay, now one can challenge up through the front window, and he's going to read that perfectly. No, he doesn't. He turns around at the perfectly wrong time. But now up down in the middle map. It's a 1. This is very winnable.
It is. They don't have much information on where he's gone. Of course, they're going to sit at this A site, but if enough time passes, they might think the rotation to B is on. So if Rando can slow play this just long enough, which he's not going to be able to, maybe could have been afforded the bomb plant, but Texas A&M, they sit tight, they play patient, and it pays off for them. Miami Redhawks have not been able to capitalize on their offensive rounds. They're constantly losing the bomb really in just unfortunate spots, which is mid-map. They haven't gotten the bomb planted one time. It's like you even said in some of their previous rounds, they've been traded out, but it's a 2-piece that gets popped here. In this round, it's Quiet finding 3 in the round. It's just big plays defensively for Texas A&M that are shutting down anything Miami tries to do.
3-3. Trends have been rounds back and forth. It's been great adjustments, trades between rounds of these two teams. However, the Redhawks are getting aggressive here on the defensive side. Brewski's going to hop out over towards the right and find the first blood on Megaira. Now a second one's going to come through with a nade. Quiet has a sniper out, so he's not going to be able to challenge us in a great way. However, with the automaton that was dropped on the ground, he's able to pick up that gun, trade things out. Now it's a 2 versus 3, but they don't know Panda's on flank, and Deuce will be the first victim of 2 potential.
If Brewski, you did your job. You got super aggressive. You forced everyone to realize, oh, this player's all the way up in my face already. All 4 arrows had to turn and try to respond to that. That allowed your teammates to get aggressive and through the flank. The pinch play happens, and that round is done and dusted, only having lost 1 life. So you did your job. But on offense, you've got to find a way to get this objective down and give yourself a more significant lead. First of all, I mean, resilience has been shown in the Search and Destroy, given how they just took a beating in map number 1. To be up 4th right now in the Search and Destroy and playing much cleaner than they looked in the hard point is already something that, you know, you can kind of tip your hat to. But if they can really put themselves at map point here, winning this offense and going back on a defense, I think they have the ability to close it out for sure. But they've got to correct some mistakes here on offense.
Slowly making their way over towards that B site. It's actually a 2-2 split here on offense, which you don't see every day of the week. Like he's going to be able to get some information on 2 players that have passed through over towards a B site. Now you see all those white arrows starting to make the rotation back through their spawn because they don't want to allow those Redhawks players to get that bomb down and then allow a pinch play to get set up on them. Evil going to be the first one there in the back. Player number 4, Blake's still holding with the AR. And they also don't want to allow a flank to come all the way through field. Player number 2 is watching with Quiet perfectly at the moment.
If Quiet can find any information, that could be huge. Gyro and Co. Get the player kit off plat, so it's Evil left all alone here on this B site, and they're not super sure that he's still back here. Obviously, that kill is going to give it away, but with 2 left on the A side, they've got to think the bomb has worked through here, but they just have no idea. And for Miami, have
Oh,
not been able to get the objective laid. Now it's down an A&M spawn, a 2v3 to clutch up, and with 20 seconds left, there's just not a lot of time. The round just took too long to develop for you offensively, and you didn't make anything happen.
and then they split up. That was the big kicker because they would have been able to potentially have some trades there. Bruce on the staircase. That was an aggressive challenge, but you had to go for it on the quiet. A&M will tie things back up at 4 apiece here instead of the search and destroy. But I mean, really, they had a good opportunity there when they were trying to make that flank wrap all the way back around through the spawn in the 2 versus 3. But again, with that second that they split up, I kind of recognized that this probably isn't going to be a round win unless they win crazy one-on-one gunfights and then can pinch together. But winning one-on-one gunfights in both of those power positions in the backside spawn and then in radio is just going to be so difficult. So it's one of those situations where everybody gets cut down, and now you can go back to the offensive side of things. Last time, the sniper didn't work out too well for Quiet. It was a very aggressive hit from the Redhawks on the defensive side. This time, though, they're going to try and throw stuns out, but they're actually just going to sprint directly up to the middle of the map, and nobody's going to be here to read it from the side of A&M.
Panda finds one. Quiet stays deep in the back and finds a kill, so that stops the other player pushing through from Miami. They didn't take mid-map control, but they did sit back on the spawn and know the flank was coming in. This allows them to rotate back through and try to get this bomb down A. Now these Miami players playing so split. They have the information, but they've got to group up here if they want to try to stand a chance.
Oh, it was great timing there for Evil as he was able to get around to the R side, but once he got weakened up from fire, it was just so difficult to be able to re-challenge. Quiet comes around that left side with the pistols, able to cut that out. 10-6 for Quiet. Rando, another 1 versus 3 here, will be able to find the first, break the second one, challenge around that corner, and now he's going to back off with his teammate who are going to try and get this bomb down today. I love this play. Don't allow Rando to pick somebody off guard like he did the first one. You get a 1 versus 1 for the round.
Gotta isolate 2 gunfights. The gunshots are going to give him away there, so he's just got to send it at this point and really just try to find one of these kills quickly. Working all the way through mid-map, but they've got it locked, both angles. Shut down for these 2 players. Now sees one laying down there, ends up getting the first kill, has to play his life. The ability to clutch up here is on the table.
Blake around that left side, going to be able to get some shots from longer range. It's been heartbreaking rounds there from Rando as he's been so close at clutching multiple 1 versus 3s after he was able to get his first there early on in the rounds. But these last few have also been scary for Tamu because they have almost lost multiple situations where they should have won handedly just because people aren't playing together. But the trade was there. It was nice. It was all good and clean. Now they are at match point here in map number 2 at 5-4 advantage. If they're able to win this, they would have a 2-0 advantage in this best of 5 series. Of course, with a control back here on the same map of Tuscan, it's going to be very difficult for the Redhawks to get any sort of strategic ability and or gumption going for themselves, specifically after map number 1.
Couldn't have said it better myself, and Miami find themselves on an offense to avoid being put down 2-0 in the series, something they have not found success in, and it's for this reason. It's just a bit too passive. I know you're saying, well, you're only like 30 seconds into the round, but they get a first blood and they don't take advantage of any kind of map situations or any kind of openings and lanes. They haven't even attempted to get the bomb down. A site could be open, but again, it's just too slow of gameplay from them in decision making that they allow for a big play to happen in and around different parts of the map, and it just doesn't develop into anything, and nothing comes to fruition of it. So Brewski now trying to get aggressive here in the mid map, but once again, I'm just not sure what they're playing for exactly.
Up top, Quiet. He's actually going to try that with a sniper and connect onto Evil. Okay. 11, it's just one of those kind of games for Quiet. He's going to look back to the middle map. He actually knows that one is there. Might be able to pick up a different weapon, but the other player goes back over towards the field. Now it's a 1 versus 2. You know that one player's on one side of the map, the other's on the other. So now you can just play this because you know that the player from Miami is going to wrap all the way through the back side of your spawn. So you can just sit there and say, okay, I have a 1v2 through the front, reload the sniper, try to get this from a different angle, and through the top of the church, you might just be able to find some great timing here. Picks up the MP40, going to challenge out towards the left. Actually was able to spot one out there, so now he has to jump down onto the bomb. Is anybody going to check this?
Love the hop.
Is anybody going to check this?
Hop.
Nobody's going to check it
There's
yet.
no way.
He's there. Okay. From the top of the plat, he's able to find the shots, but oh my god, I thought nobody was going to check that for the longest time.
Man. I mean, he slipped perfectly. The timing was impeccable. Brewski, spider sense is tingling on that one. Gave it a peek just in case, and now in the final round, Miami, they get an offensive round on the board once they get the objective down. Who'd have thought? But they find themselves on defense here in round 11. Can they clutch up against Texas A&M, or can Texas A&M, behind the success and the sniper of Quiet, put them down 2-0 in the series?
Trying their hardest around 11 here to keep the series extended at least to a map number 4. Nade from Quiet over the top is going to get some information. Thinks that the player might be over toward the left side there. trying to hold the pre-aim. Nobody pushing up the Redhawks here on this defensive try. They do not want to get caught off guard here because they have played so aggressive on the defensive side so many rounds in a row.
They get aggressive off the opening break and get themselves across mid-map, but like you said, they're holding at that point. But once again, it's Blake playing deep, watching for the flank. Panda has made it several times, but that's behind Miami Redhawks' aggression where they're able to find a first blood. They haven't done that just yet, so we're going to see Blake creep up into fire and try to get information, but with 45 seconds already off the clock, for Texas A&M, being on offense, you've got to make the play in here. They start to creep up, and they've just got to be oh so careful. This first blood is going to nearly decide the round.
And the Redhawks have played this so perfectly, but you should at least know that there's going to be one on the backside spawn if you're Gyra, because Rando was playing that a few rounds beforehand. So if you're able to get that, it would be huge, but the timing's going to be there. You trade it out. Brewski, now it's a 3 versus 2. The Redhawks now in a 1 versus 3. Gyra, the last one alive, and you have information where this player is and the bomb down on the site. It's going to be such a difficult one-on-one to win here. If you want to try and check this, Brewski grabs the bomb, looks up and towards the top of fire. Challenge around the corner. Gyra there with a reload. 1 versus 1. Gunfight goes in the opposite direction. The Redhawks win 2 rounds to at least force 4 maps inside of this best of 5 series, and that's exactly the way that they needed to bounce back here in map number 2 after they were embarrassed in the Tuscan hardpoint in map 1.
A great bounce back from Miami, as you said, after what was just a map 1 disaster. They clutch up in round 11. Doesn't matter how many rounds it takes. They got the job done. Of course, Brando at 11-6, having a really awesome performance in that search and destroy, and they sorted their offensive woes at the perfect time. I mean, granted, it was 1 offensive round win on the board, but nonetheless, that's what got them to around 11, and they were able to clutch up on the defense by opening up with the first blood, trading from then on out. So for them, they respond back in a big way, and now the series has a little bit of life.
Not only does it have a little bit of life, but again, you know, if we're talking just what we saw from map number 1, that was the way that you had to keep this series alive, because at least in my mind here, the way that the Redhawks played in map 1, this is a 2, 3, and 5 series win right here. That's your win conditions for this series. If you can force a map number 5, you know, all the more power to you. If you can steal a respawn in map number 3, that's great. But if you're going to win the S&Ds, that's the only way that you're going to be able to beat this Tamu Maroon squad. Because let's be frank here. With the way they played map number 1, if you play Gavutu the same way, you're going to get spanked again. So, you know, respawns are off the table in terms of hard points. So if you got to win 3, you got to win the control.
Yeah, they do. And unfortunately for them, that's Texas A&M's better modes. So it's one where they really have to win in modes that maybe on paper that they shouldn't be having to win. But again, that's playoff times. It forces you to play uncomfortable, and you've got to be able to adjust mid-series to what the game and what the other team is giving you. So for Miami, adjustments have to be continuously made throughout this series. And for Texas A&M, in the respawns, they were capitalizing and taking advantage of that faster gameplay. They can do just that the next 2 maps and look to close it out here. Again, really, now that Miami were able to respond in the way that they did, this goes once again to a coin toss series.
Well. Map number 3 on the loom. We're guaranteed at least 4 maps in a Gavutu hardpoint later on inside of this series. We're going to step aside here and take a quick break as we get map number 3 set up in the background. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash. You're watching the CCL playoffs. Welcome back. It's a 1-1 tied-up series between the Redhawks and Texas A&M Maroon. You know, Pei in the background is oh so angry at me right now. I made a joke and she didn't like it very much.
Oh, Corn, always getting production on the right or wrong side. Just depends on the night, really.
Yeah, it just depends. But overall, as we look forward to this series, the Redhawks were able to bounce back in map number 2. Texas A&M, though, it was a crazy map number 1. If we can go ahead and get maps and just overlook this series real quick to see kind of where we're going to be heading towards next, and of course where we have already been, you can go ahead and see for the side of Tamu, it has been an up and down roller coaster as far as it's been for the Redhawks. This series has been really weird to gauge, Cash, because in the respawn it was not close, but the S&D could not have been closer.
Yeah. And that's why I would say still, I guess, you know, leaning Tamu. I mean, they played that really close, but again, we keep bringing up Miami and the resilience to be able to come back and win that map. Granted, it was very close, like you said. For them, they've got to find a way, given that there are still 2 respawns left in this series, you've got to find a way to make this a bit more competitive if you want to push this series beyond a map number 4. So looking at the search and destroy, yeah, that was a great win for them to get, but for Tamu, they're going back to a respawn, back to that quick pace game mode on Tuscan, where really, depending on how their opening breaks go, I mean, and if they play like they did the hard point, they could just play TDM for the first half of it and, you know, kind of get ticks here and
Yep.
there as the kills afford it. So I would say for Miami, job's not done yet, of course, in the series, but until we see some improvement in respawn, it's definitely a big question mark hovering over them in map number 3.
Control round on offense for the side of the Miami Redhawks. Texas A&M Maroon will be on the defensive side to start things off here. Beautiful shots from Randall will get things going early on here. So maybe it was just the first map jitters. Maybe things just weren't gelling together. But after map number 2, things just seem, at least early on in map number 3, to have at least gelled a bit more. It's a nice 3-1 opening break, now making it 3-4. This is beautiful.
It is already the first tick of progression on the A site coming in. They have mid-map control, and Texas A&M have yet to get close to the site. Miami, like you had said, maybe some first map jitters. Definitely out of the way at this point. They've opened up very strong off of this offensive break, and now starting to get kills on transition over and in and around Church. So not even letting Texas A&M get a chance to contest the site with well over 2 minutes on the clock. They are now going to be working through P4 to try to get over to the B site. And for Texas A&M, you find yourself down 5 lives, and you also find yourself needing to make a stand here and put together a stop.
Maybe map number 1, the Redhawks had different colored Ethernet cables than Texas A&M Maroon did. So 25-21 we stand right now. 2 minutes left on the clock for many attempts at breaks over towards this B site on the offensive side. However, it is going to be a northward hit for the Miami Redhawks as they start to go ahead and attack the backside spawns of Texas A&M Maroon. They're going to try and hold on to Fine here in that basically lower right quadrant of the map. It is yet really anything to go off just yet as Brewski will finally find that first blood in toward Top Church.
Panda gets picked in the bag, so that at least thwarts that problem for the time being. This hit coming through Alley and Radio, and Texas A&M, they're grouping up in and around flat to try and nullify this, but trades go even for the time being. It's Miami still with a man advantage in and around the site, but with Texas A&M spawning close, they should be able to react quickly as the Redhawks have to wait for teammates to spawn up and get back up to the site. So still finding themselves down about 4 or 5 lives, but they've held on. You just got to find a way to do it for, about 60 more seconds.
From Church this time. Player heading toward the backside spawn. It's a nice even hit here from the Redhawks on the offensive push. First one going to pop out around the corner. Trying to hit over towards the plateau side. You're going to be able to find the first one. So that's a beautiful double down there from Panda. He's done a great job of getting them onto the point. Now the last 2 players are going to be cooped up all the way in their spawn side. And it's a pinch now coming through there from Rando as well. A beautiful kill feed. Gyro will go ahead and save for 2. But the damage has already been done. And the Redhawks have now pushed onto the point. They've got 2 players on it. Reinforcements now spawning back over my P5. And that'll be good enough for a tick and almost 2 ticks of progress. Fortunately enough, though, Texas A&M will hold strong enough to not allow that second tick of progress to be earned. And that could be crucial if they're not able to earn it the rest of this, as that would be boding well for a defensive round in map 5, or rather round 5.
A great time for them to collapse on the site indeed. They hold them to 4 ticks for the time being, and given the lives, really given the time, they've got 1 good hit left if they don't fall here, which trades go even, but for the time being, this is looking to be their last hit with 1 player coming up off spawn. They need to find an opening and get on the site. They found it once before. It only awarded 1 tick of progression, but here and now they need 2 more, and well, it's 2 for 1 in the feed favoring Tamu.
Almost able to gun quiet off the head glitch in the back there. There's only 1 player now pushed up the map over towards the platform side. You're able to find the first, jump down on the second. Evil some shots on the quiet. Unfortunately, won't be able to walk away with the kill. However, it's the last player now pushed up the map in Brewski. You're able to find the first, up and towards the top, though. The second player now going to challenge every band for themselves here for the Redhawks. And as they can't get to the point and muster enough time to capture that second and third tick of progress, it's not a glorified team deathmatch round. It's a nice Texas A&M hold on the defensive side after letting that first A zone go within the first 15 seconds.
And good to see them hold on and not rely on hyper aggression to get it done. Again, this shows qualities of teams that can make deep playoff runs. They are on a team that relies on having to play fast and get kills. They can slow down and play the objective on the defensive side as well. So for Texas A&M, they won a hard-earned defensive round. Now on offense, if they could find a win here, that could be oh so critical, having only held Miami to 4 total ticks of progression. So off the opening break, it's going to be a 4 hit over at this A side. And once again, Miami getting aggressive in and through the mid-map. It's going to be Evil already on the flank, but making the adjustment from S&D, they sniff it out.
Yeah, I was actually going to hit directly on that point, so I'm glad that you brought that up. Beautiful flank, though, gets snuffed out. 2-to-1 trade already off the front of the boards. Everybody's right in the kill feed now. This is looking comparable to what we saw in the very beginning on Tuscan. Hard point from Texas A&M. And as they start to push into the spawn side, it's going to be very, very identical to what we saw the Redhawks do on their first offensive try here in Tuscan. They go ahead and capture that A zone and put an extra minute on the clock. So 2:20 to work with as they push back over towards B. Not a lot has dwindled off the clock for either team, but right now it is a 4-life advantage for Texas A&M as they once again are going to try to push to that north side of the map.
And your cookie cutter opening of an offensive round for Texas A&M, comparable to what the Redhawks just opened up with last round. Can they find a break earlier and get, of course, a couple more ticks of progression? That's the question yet to be answered. But this P4 hit, still finding successes. They're just trying to look for 1 or 2 more kills here. And Player 7 and Deuce trying to work through plot. A big 1v1 going down on the site here as players start getting it done in church.
So the Church going to be there for Deuce. Tries to hop back over towards the right. A beautiful challenge is going to allow him to not only get 2 kills, but start making his way all the way into the backside spawns of the Redhawks. As Gyro finds one onto the truck, you can now realize that you have all the free range in the world to make your way into the spawn site and start to influence what the Redhawks are going to do on the map. And as Blake is sitting in the corner, almost gets turned on, but will run back down the ramp. Shots in from behind. A 2-2 split allows Texas A&M to get that first tick of progress at B. Now from the backside spawn, you find one. You get some help there from Deuce, who now slips back around for himself. A 10 life advantage here on the offensive side allows Texas A&M to at least get 1 tick, and now they can work this a lot easier with still 1 minute and 30 seconds left.
Fortunately for Miami, you do get streaks off the board and finding the kill and Deuce, but yeah, you get 1 tick progression with a lot more time left on the clock to make another hit happen, and you find yourself up 8 lives. So all things going right for Texas A&M for the most part on this opening offensive round. If they can get a quick hit in here, that could definitely spell success for them, but they've got Evil sitting in a tight corner here, not aware that 3 players are going to be running out, but if he can find one of these, that would definitely help.
2-1 trade. Redhawks in their spawn, holding resilient now. Only 7 lives separate these teams, but 50 seconds is really going to be the kicker for Texas A&M to allow them to push up the map. It's going to be the real catalyst that they're working against. Blake through the backside now at 8-8 here in map number 3. Looks around to the right, is going to be able to spot out one, but it's Rando from the top that gets help with his teammate on the platform that are going to be able to turn and knock everybody out of the spawn. So, negating tons of time off the clock and slowly ticking down, Texas A&M are only going to get a few more good attempts to push back over towards the hill. First shots there from Quiet into the radio. We'll be able to find one. You're now going to make your way across the top, but look for player number 4 and Brewski. He's setting up a flank here that might just win them the round.
It very well could if he can find 1, even 2 of these players, let alone the information that he's relaying that everyone is plat. This could definitely blow this round wide open for Miami on defense. They line up for 2. Evil cleans up the last, and now with 15 seconds left, no time to get across the map. Miami Redhawks, hold on.
I mean, Quiet might be able to touch just for a second, but he's going to have 4 different players directly looking down him over towards that site, all the way in top radio. Quiet looks for the first blood. Now you're going to jump down into the hill. 3 kills go. Now everybody down from A&M. It's another one of those situations where it's so difficult to break towards that point because you have no time left to work with, and you can't take it in a methodical manner as you might have if you had a little bit more time to work into your hands. So 1-1 defensive side hold on here, Cash, but it got very close for both of those 2 teams respectively in those defensive rounds.
It did, and it came down to one last offensive effort. So either team on the offensive side, adjustments that can be made would be trying to capitalize on the time you get on the side. I know that's hard given, that you only get so much time to work with before the defensive teams come back up. But both teams only at 4 total ticks of progression. I wonder if someone's going to switch it up and try to go an opening B hit. For the time being, Miami not going to do that, just opting to take the map control. And Evil opened up with the first blood. Blake quick to trade it out.
Back around between covers in the middle of the map. Blake will be able to stay alive for now, but he really has nowhere to go and/or moves to make here through the middle of the map. He can't help his teammates out over towards A. He's just going ahead and stalling the player in towards the top of the fire side, but as he jumps down in the middle of the map, Gyro will be there. So now it's good 3 players working in towards a pinch play through the middle of the map and all the way through the flank side of spawn. This, however, will allow the side of the Redhawks to now make their way over towards B and split the defenders here away from the A site, and this might just be enough to get at least a tick of progress over by A, or at least weaken the defenses up just a bit more of A&M.
But something we have seen that we haven't, or something we've seen just now that we haven't in this control thus far is a retake on A before it's captured. But like you said, that awards the swing over to this B site. But A&M, they're ready for it. They know that this is what Miami was going to opt to do. It's 2 for 2 in the kill feed for the time being. Deuce tries to chow out for 1, and it doesn't come to anything. So Texas A&M, still problems to worry about given that 2 are on B, but no progress being made yet. Looks like they're going to give up this A site, given that it's just 1 tick left, because, well, they've got a couple of thorns in their sign over on this right side of the map.
We ask this time and time again, when does a flank player or a player that's pushed up into the spawn side not equate to anything? Right now, this is just wasting time that the Redhawks need as you have player 4 so far pushed up the map. Sure, it might equate to something later on inside of the round, but right now you literally have done nothing to help out your teammates, and you're allowing them to get spawn trapped on the other side of the map while playing a corner in the spawn side, waiting for them to spawn up. This is just not an advantageous position to be in. Sure, you have 2 players coming off the spawns, but once again, there is Quiet, who's going to pop for 2 and once again knock the spawns off. This is just a horrible decision here from Brewski to stay in the backside spawn.
It is, and if you're A&M, you've got to be aware that, okay, we haven't seen Brewski in the kill feed in a while, but at this point, like you said, who cares what he's doing? Yeah, you've got back control, but like you said, your team's in a spawn trap, so at what point do you give it up and try to help out your team? I know he's waiting for them to get an opening break, but with Quiet being a walk-in two-piece, it's just been very hard for them to make anything happen. Maybe perhaps one walk into his pre-aim and ends up getting that kill, but now your position's afforded and given away, and no one's up to help you get this B site, so it's going to be quite the challenge. Panda is able to stay alive for the time being and doing more work than, well, Brewski has seen in a couple minutes, but this could be the opening they need. I don't know that it was much aid of Brewski.
It really wasn't much aid because you could have gotten this player to slip through the back lines a little bit easier, even if you were able to play the trade back and forth and just push him through the middle of the map, and you wouldn't have lost as many lives or as much time as you did if Brewski wasn't playing in the back. Sure, it's going to net you a little bit of good here, but Deuce is still going to be able to trade that out in a pinstripe kill feed, and now you're back to square one because all you have is Deuce pushed up into the offensive, or rather player number 1, and Rando pushed up over towards B on that offensive side push. And now everybody falls down again. That was just a non-coordinated round there from Texas, or rather from the Miami Redhawks, and that is something that you cannot afford here, especially when Texas A&M was kind of put in a chokehold at a certain point in terms of how many lives were left on the side.
It really at a point, like you said, did have Texas A&M in a bind, and again, just it almost felt reminiscent of their search and destroy offensive rounds, where it's like, okay, you're in a position to make something happen, and you don't. The time ticks, and it really felt like a 3v4 for most of that offensive round, giving the advantage back to A&M, and you only got 3 ticks of progression that round. So that's definitely something that's going to come into play here. If Texas A&M don't walk away with an offensive round here, definitely could come into effect in round number 5, because, well, Texas A&M, if they've been able to find successes in respawn and finding kills, of course it didn't give them the offensive round win, but if they just need 1 tick of progression here to lock down defense for sure, and, well, they look poised and able to. As long as they don't do the same thing Miami did, they should be just fine.
Be hit off the rip for Texas A&M. There's only going to be 1 player over towards the B side, at least initially here for the Redhawks, and touching that point, you are at A&M, you should be able to recognize that there will be one here. Going to be playing the best corner possible, but we'll have to back off. MP40 shot around the corner. We'll find 1, make it 2, switches to the pistol. Oh my God! Panda finds every single player on Texas A&M Maroon, sends them to the respawn block. Hey pals, we'll see you next time.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just body bagged the entire team, and I'd nearly back out of the lobby at that. I mean, that is handed to you on a silver platter. Panda making something out of nothing. Now Texas A&M still over on this B site. You hope your teammates can clean up where you had kicked things off, but a one-man army for Miami single-handedly stopping the offensive break coming on this B site. For Texas A&M, you ego-chowed it, and, well, it bit you back about as hard as it could. Oh. An unbelievable defensive response and hold from none other than Panda and Panda alone.
That was stupid. Those things should never happen on a map. In Texas A&M, you know, okay, we talk about, oh, the non-traded kills. You have to trade at least 1 person out of 4. 4 different players challenged him. 4 different players got mollywopped back to the respawn block.
And now Rando's through on the flank. I mean, Texas A&M, now they're playing a little panicked and a little discombobulated. Players spread all around the map, and Miami's taking advantage in and through the mid-map. Players have gotten through on the flank. Now they're pinned in a spawn trap. That just did wonders not only for the mental, but for Texas A&M, I'm a little freaked out. Like, what in the world was that? They have not been able to recover from it. With 15 seconds left, they don't even have the A side. I mean, for Miami, just hold your pre-aims. They're going to walk into it. This is the only option they have left.
4 in a row from Brewski, 6 in a row from Rando. Brewski will turn around, get some bad timing there, but Rando on the flank is going to be able to find 2 and streaks to go along with that. So the Redhawks have utility. Texas A&M finally will get the progress over towards the A site, but with 1:10 and you're down by almost a full 10 lives here, you are not looking poised to go back over towards that B hit. And it all came off of that opening break where Panda was able to find 4. Sure, you have 2 hits here if you want to go over towards the B zone, and really all it takes is 1 good hit towards that site. But with the lives being doubled up for Miami right now, and really nothing in terms of map positioning going the way of Tamu, it's looking like another round here that'll send us to a round 5.
If I'm Texas A&M, the only thing I'm looking at of this round is 1 tick of progression that locks you defense for round number 5. I'm 4 stacking this to P5. Be ready for this gunfight for Panda. Don't let him do it again! He finds 2, fortunately gets traded out, but Brewski is there to make the kill feed go 3 for 2, but wow. That was your one of your last attempts there, but again, I'm just trying to get one tick of progression over it B that guarantees defensive round 5 for Miami. I'm not trying to let that happen, but this is it. This is the last hit, not only in lives, but in time.
Kill's gonna be there. Teammate on Brewski, so technically a 3-3 trade as we go even into the backside spawns. Deuce making his way all the way around. Players from the Miami Redhawks still close up and personal, but as Deuce hops onto the point, Rando, who's just on the platform, can look around the point, doesn't see him anywhere, has to realize, okay, you're directly below. Now it's Quiet and Blake who push on out. 2 versus 12, trying to get at least one tick of progress here to vote for the last offensive round, but as Evil and everybody else starts to swarm around the point, you're not Panda, and you're not going to be able to 1 versus for yourself a tick of progress. The Redhawks force a round number 5, and have looked much better here in the Tuscan control than we saw in the hard point of map number 1.
We keep saying his name, but I just think that made the complete difference in that round. I think Texas A&M put all their eggs in one basket on that B hit after it got thwarted. They weren't able to get anything response. I mean, of course, they get A and get time over, but by then, because of what Panda did and the aggression that allowed Miami to play with in and around other lanes of the map, the lives were so drastic that you didn't give yourself an opportunity to play around that. So on an offense, they have to do it, and it doesn't open up the same way that it did the last go around. So a good, more clean start for Texas A&M, and this A hit coming in quickly. But man, they've got to go big here to win this in round number 5.
Well, they try to get it. Just as the Redhawks, it was harder to go any lower than they were in map number 1. It's harder to go any lower than getting 4-pieced by somebody over towards that B site when you just hit immediately at the beginning of the round. Only 1 life lost here for Texas A&M. And as they start to push into the backside spawns, it's going to be Rando on the back tank with a Heglitch in his favor that gives them at least 2 quick kills, forces the respawns to come in from A&M, and now it's going to be another slow hit with 2 minutes left.
Picks get traded in and around Church and in and around mid-map. 2-2. But for Miami, you're spawning up and getting right back to your power positions. Right now for Texas A&M, you're trying to win it around Church, and really Brewski is sitting at P5 just waiting for action. You wonder, when that hit's going to come in, of course, at the end of the round as time starts to dwindle, but the big question with these offensive teams when they have time to spare is really walking that line of how many attempts do we throw at P4, right? Because that's the easy read to make for the time being. This is probably coming to P4, P4, P4. So long as Brewski's getting nothing, that's going to be the play. And Miami reading it like a book, 1:27 left. We'll see if, depending on how these gunfights go, if they switch up the approach. But for the time being, Miami taking care of business.
I'll let you remember, Rando has a streak to use in the back. Panda. He's already proven that he can be a one-man army and towards top radio, almost able to escape out, but from behind is Quiet. In the backside spawn, though, it's still Rando on the tank. Nobody's been able to push through the backside to try and get around through over towards B. If you are the side of Texas A&M, and now as Evil goes in towards the top of Church, you're just dwindling lives at the same time as you're taking that time off the clock. Texas A&M need to make a break stick here. They just have not been able to do it thus far.
Unfortunate timing there, cuts down another player, just 2 left up at the site, and a big gunfight to win for Gyra over at Platts. You have 2 players here, you're waiting for these players to get in off respawn. Lives are even, but it's that time that's going to come to effect. Player 8 and Blake has to win a big gunfight over in Church just to try to develop bench play.
35 and 31 there for Panda. 15-15 on the lives. Time at 30 seconds. Only 30 seconds for Texas A&M to be able to clutch up here in map number 3. Blake in the top. Deuce in the kill feed. Going to be able to find 2. But here's a streak that can be also crucial here for the side of the Redhawks. He'll be able to find 2. Rando, another game-saving couple of kills. That'll be 7 in a row for him again. Fortunately enough, that's only with streak, so you won't be able to find yet another glide bomb, but you get onto the point. 10 seconds left. Nobody able to get across the map from A&M. It's just a dead-out sprint. Very similar to what we saw in their first offensive try. Beautifully demonstrated from the Redhawks is not only do they win map number 2 in a round 11, but they take map number 3 in a 3-2 win. That gives them a 2-1 lead here inside of the series. And Cash, after map number 1, we did not think we would be saying their praises or graces after these next couple of maps.
Yeah, we offered a couple possible solutions to what went wrong in map number 1, maybe internet not plugged in or controllers turned off, whatever you opt to choose for each storyline. This is a much different Miami team now that we have played 3 maps, and well, they tighten up at a respawn. That was the question mark going into this control was, can they take care of business at a respawn? Can they play at a pace that best suits them? Even if A&M tries to throw a different pace at you, a 4 hit through B, Panda's like, I got it taken care of. So the non-traded kills from Rando and Panda really stand out for me for Miami at 28. and 26 respectively, over 50 non-traded kills. Of course, for A&M, you also have 60 on the other side, so they were able to hold their own and respond in a way, but you do just enough to get it done. Another nail-biter for Miami to walk out the win, but hey, a round win and a map win is a map win, doesn't matter how close it is.
Well, this was a different change of pace than I think most of us were expecting. Redhawks now with a 2-1 lead inside of this best-of-5 series. Rando, again, a great map, but it was the heroics in that round from Panda that I think everybody will be remembering for time and time to come, especially if they're able to win this series, have a bit of help, and make the playoffs. It's those small moments that really get teams going, but I mean, you can even go back to the map number 2, where Rando had the 1 versus 3. That gave them confidence, momentum, but it was another round that A&M should have won, which could have gave them another advantage in that S&D, which might not even have forced that round 11. Again, we're going into the theoretics here, the reticles rather, but again, with the Redhawks being up with a 2-1 advantage going into another hard point here on Gavutu, with the way that they're playing, it could be very difficult for Texas A&M Maroon to be able to come ahead and demonstrate their will back against them, but I think this is a very capable team to not only force a round, or rather a map number 5, but again, win handily here on Gavutu.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you're Texas A&M, you've lost the last 2 maps. Fortunately, you're going back to a hard point. If they can replicate even 50% of what they did on that opening hard point, they should be just fine. So we've said it the last 2 maps. I'm going to say it again, the third map, Miami, you still have to continue to take care of business. Sure, you're up 2-1 in the series, but you know how that first hard point opened up. Gavutu, of course, plays a little bit differently, and your ARs in Rando especially have been finding a lot of success here as of late. So you've got to be feeling good, but you've got to play it better. I don't know if, again, whatever the case was, or maybe just props to Texas A&M for coming out as hot as they did. Find a way to shut that down. Rando, again, ever since the Search and Destroy, has been playing lights out for their main ARs. So for Miami, still have work to do and stuff to prove now that we are in a true hard point once again. And you have the ability to close it out. Don't give this Texas A&M team any life in a game number 5. Find a way to get it done here.
You know, that's kind of how I felt going into the S&D for Tamu. It was like, okay, well, you know, you just won that map by a ridiculous margin. Don't give them any reason to get hope inside of this series by just winning the S&D outright and going into map 3, closing this out in a 3-0 series. I mean, we both were under the assumption, yeah, after map 1, this was Texas A&M in 3. Yeah, that was the general assumption. After 3 maps, I would not have been able to tell you that the Redhawks would have been able to come back after what we saw in map number 1. And I hate to go ahead and kind of beat the dead horse of just bringing it back to that first hardpoint on Tuscan, but it was so bad on the side of the Redhawks that nobody in their right minds would have thought that they had the gumption to win this series. You know, we asked the question after map 1, okay, what does this roster look like without Q-Pan? We got the answer in at least the first hardpoint. After that, though, in map number 2 for the Search and Destroy and the Control, we got a completely different story. This is a team that at least seems to have confidence, and when they're playing together, they are slaying together. The old Call of Duty cliche, as much as it is, now you're trying to go ahead and force not only the series win here, but help yourselves to an actual playoff in the West. Texas A&M, one final map. Again, what I did not think I'd be saying here inside of the series, one final map for them to force a Game 5 and keep their series alive at the same time.
Texas A&M got to get back to the old bread and butter of slaying. Like you said, Miami slaying together, and, you know, that's helping them win for the time being. Rambo opening up the first Blood Evil to also find one as well, but this guy is the one you've got to get off the map. As long as he's upright, he is a problem. Already opening up at 3-0 and affording Miami very clean P1 time. Texas A&M have to work out through this beach side to try to get back, but Rando is going to be one I'm definitely keeping my eyes on throughout this map because he has been the difference maker for this Redhawks squad. Absolutely.
Maps 2, 3 have gone in the favor of Rando in terms of what he's been able to bring to the table for the Redhawks roster. Here, though, early on Gavutu, Texas A&M are now backing towards the point. Panda tries to slide around with a gunfight challenge there with the way of the MP40. And this is, again, Cash, the kind of conversation we wanted to have in map 1. It was, okay, which team in their ARs are going to be able to be the best on the map? This is, though, that final pressure test of if your ARs are going to be better, you should at least theoretically win this map.
You absolutely should, but again, I see whose POV we're on board with, and it's Quiet, and Quiet was someone who, granted, was with a sniper in the Search and Destroy, but has been a walking two-piece most of the night as well. So many X factors to keep your eye on in this Gavutu that could honestly spell the series. Of course, for Miami, it'd be the way to win, and for Texas A&M, it'd be forcing a game number 5. But so many players on the board here that need to step up and could be the difference maker for their team. You have to be ready to make the big play. I see 8 players in this lobby that are able to do just that, and well, for the time being, Texas A&M Maroon. they're picking up where they left off, and they're up 50-20.
Well, Panda's only kill on the board was the cut down Blake, who was on 7 in a row. So if Texas A&M Maroon do have a glide bomb to work with later on if they want to break it and use it over towards P3, which with the way that they're set up right now, looks like it might have to do just that, specifically because they don't have those spawns in their favor. P1, though, controlled by the Redhawks towards the north side of the map. You have 2 players at the bottom of the LST ship who have gotten themselves out to a 69-19 lead. Early 50 points here for the side of Texas A&M over the side of the Redhawks. But with the setup on P3, they look to go ahead and garner themselves a nice bit of time.
They have ring control, and Blake behind that kill is going to try to clear this out and allow the teammates to press on here. Deuce with the cherry on top finds the kill that completely opens up this P3 side. That'll be 4 down, and Texas A&M, they flood onto the hill, and whenever Deuce does his thing in the back, he is able to, again, just open up with 3-4 kills at a time and push players even further back into their spawn. Also looking ahead at rotation with 30 seconds off the clock. This is where Texas A&M looks so clean, is that they're already making decisions with 30 seconds left, trusting the gunfights that are being won already in this hard point. They already have 2 players sent over and spawn secured for P4. And it's Miami who's just caught off guard from it. Really, this what we saw from Texas A&M that blew this game wide open, and once again, they find themselves doing it.
And I'm so glad that you used the glide bomb there if you are Blake, because not only does that allow you to get that time in P3 break for the spawns, but now that you're set up for P4, it's just another added, again, as you said, cherry on top. But the fact that you don't allow the Redhawks to garner any more time for themselves and find their way back in this game, this is looking reminiscent of the Texas A&M team we saw in map number 1 against the Redhawks. It's that strict, straightforward gameplay that allows them to take the map by storm. I just don't know how this hasn't translated into other game modes and has allowed the Redhawks to get back into this series and the way that they are now controlling this series. It's almost a 100-point lead yet again here on Gavutu. It's such a mind-boggling factor to me.
It is, but I look at how they won, or excuse me, how they lost in maps 2 and 3, and it was by 1 round in both modes. So when they're losing, it's very close. When they're winning, it's dominant. Like you said, though, being able to replicate that on a consistent basis, that makes a difference. And that probably makes this a 3-0 series, absolutely. But for how dominant they play in Hardpoint, I have no question that this is going to be their bread and butter. If they can win the series and continue to win in playoffs, this is going to be one team they're going to have to watch out for no matter how this series pans out. But for the time being, they are very much in the driver's seat up 100 points. And with clean rotations and just clean decision-making as well, they can once again do no wrong.
You know, maybe it might not be another exact 50-point club, but with a 100-point lead and now continuing to grow, they're winning the gunfights to the backside of the spawns. Redhawks have done, I mean, it was kind of a give or take situation, right? Because, you know, you give up the initial time to try and take those backside spawns, but when that doesn't work out, you give 20 seconds of time up for free and now have to fight to the front yet again, basically netting the side of Tamu Maroon 40 seconds of uncontested time here. And now as you start to fight to the front yet again, you're still losing the one-on-one gunfights. This is, again, a free 60 seconds of time that Miami has just given Tamu because of their decision-making at the very beginning of the point, allowing them to get the initial time trying to rotate for the spawn side.
And even then, Miami find themselves in power positions and still cannot capitalize. Fortunately for Miami, Brewski does have a glide bomb and was able to get full streaks there playing around that. But the same way Blake used them early, I think for Miami, I don't think you hang on to these. You need to find a way to get yourself back in this game. They're eclipsing the 200-point mark. At this point, I know they're not at 250 and the game's not over, but it is do or die. And you really want to try to make a stand and find footing. But it feels like that situation once again where sure, it's not a 50-point club, but it's going to be nearly close. And they just haven't been able to stick together any kind of response. The gunfights get too dominant for A&M here, and the decision-making a bit cleaner.
Can't win here on P1 just yet for Tamu Maroon. However, you can go ahead and get closer and closer. The Redhawks will break back in. They've got a considerable amount of work to do here. Basically going to need themselves 200 points on Tamu Maroon before they can get 39 to win map number 4 and close this series out. It's, again, one of those situations where we said, hey, sure, you'd have to play perfect hardpoint all the way through, but you'd have to play exactly how Texas A&M Maroon is playing, and that is just simply not doable by the Redhawks with the precedence that we saw from map number 1. Frying on all cylinders. Tamu Maroon now rotating over towards P2, or at least trying to win the one-on-one gunfight there. Off-screen engagement with Gyra there against player number 7. Evil will go the way of the Redhawks, but yet again, it's another one of those situations where sure, you've set up early, but every single time you've rotated early cash, it's been a break from Tamu.
It has been, and they can't afford to get broken is the thing. So where you have to make the near impossible stand, you already go down 2 in the kill feed, make that 3, and well, once again, Tamu's in, and it's just coming down to gunfights. I mean, you look at the scoreboard side for Miami Redhawks, 10-17, 10-13, 7-14, 15 assists game. Of course, Brewski is throwing together one of the better performances, but that streak is really just trying to prevent the inevitable, and that's going to be a game win. And a forced round number 5 here. I guess Miami going to make me eat my words for the time being and try to extend this one out, but needing just 4 seconds. And what I would expect is another break. Tam and Maroon can do it.
What do you not want to have happen to you in 2 consistent hard points? You don't want to get 100 club in both. So maybe you're just trying to play for those last 5 seconds. But as we look at the rotation, sure, Texas A&M and Maroon don't have the rotation for themselves just yet, and that would have been a great gunfight to win there. But you're just prolonging the inevitable at this point. And as you start to sit here and push from that left side of the map, the Redhawks, you know, you're firing on all cylinders right now. That's phenomenal for you, and I'm happy that you're able to do that. But you should have been doing this, you know, from the get-go, from the first rotation of hard points. But 2 kills go down to the side of Texas A&M Maroon. You're trying to push in through the front side. You're waiting for everybody to get there to start making your push all the way forward. Want to win a one-on-one gunfight here, but this is just garbage time here inside of the hard point. You're just trying to make things stick. One-on-one gunfight to the front of the hill. Brewski's going to be there, one for around the corner. Deuce, though, will break on in. Nobody in for the side of the Redhawks. And with a 250 to 138 point win right there, 134, excuse me, point win there in map number 4. That will force a round 5 here inside of this series. And Cash, we will be going to a search and destroy to figure out which one of these teams will be eliminated from playoff contention and who will be moving forward, at least for the time being.
Playoff time, always bringing out the best in series. And for Tamu Maroon, I mean, I don't think it's a Miami thing. They played a respawn really close and won it. And the control, I think it is very much a Texas A&M hardpoint thing that they have figured out. It's forced them to a game number 5. Definitely a mode they can lean on if they find themselves in a predicament to win in a series. But they have to turn around and win a search and destroy that they lost in a round 11 fashion already within this series. So we know Blake put up big numbers. We know Quiet put up big numbers in the search and destroy. Can the other 2 players complement that gameplay and seal the deal for this series, or are they going to let Miami take it after making a, well, once again, quite the impressive stand after another hard point? That's what we are yet to find out. But again, you look at the scoreboard, it's a similar story to the first go-around. Sure, Miami put up a little bit more of a fight in the mid-map, but it's the same thing. Dominant from Deuce, really just solid stuff out of Blake as well, and just some, you know, good enough score lines coming in from there, but it's just such slow slaying from the side of Miami that it's hard to get on the point whenever you can't win the kills. That's just what it boils down to for me.
Probably could have been another 100-point club here for the side of Texas A&M Maroon. However, the Redhawks were able to go ahead and in garbage time get about another 60, 70 points on the board for themselves. So that has led us to a situation where, again, we will be seeing a game at number 5 here. 2-2 split in the series. If you weren't here earlier on when we were talking about the different scenarios for these 2 teams, basically each of these teams needs a win in this situation to keep their season alive, but they need help with those wins. For Tamu, if they beat Miami here, they will need to either beat Akron or they will need UCO to lose to Miami. And for the side of Miami, if they beat Tamu, they would need to beat UCO to clinch, or Tamu would need to beat Akron, leaving Miami to win the tiebreaker inside of this Group C instead of the Western Division. So, Cash, Game 5 on the loom. I'm not going to ask you who you got here because that's unfair after what we've seen from these 2 teams thus far in the series. But it's going to be fun is really all I can say.
It is going to be fun. We're going to go to Bacage. That one always plays really interesting. Awards for usually some kind of magic in the clutch. We've seen Rando pulling off 1v3s. Are coming pretty close in some situations. Hopefully for Miami, you don't want to leave him in that many situations, but that's the guy that can get it done for Miami. And on the side of Tamu, we know Quiet with the sniper. You don't see it quite as much on Bacage, but at least over on that defensive side, we may see Quiet with it out. But yeah, the aggression from Miami that they were able to turn up and activate in the search and destroy on Tuscan is something I'm interested to see if they try to do here. Does Tamu make the read? There's just so much, of course, that we are yet to see. But given that the last one went the way of Miami, I'm really interested to see, do they get in their head too much and overthink it and start to cost themselves, or do they just play confident, play their game, and go out and get it done? So again, it's a coin toss and it's on the board for both squads. We've seen enough from both tonight to justify a win for either. Who's going to come out when it's put up or shut up time and get it done?
While we collect our thoughts and these teams go ahead and find their way to the lobby for map number 5, we're going to step aside and take a quick break. When we come back, Game 5, and we'll see which team will be not only eliminated from playoffs, but which team could be moving on. My name is McCormiel. With me, Cash. We'll be back after a break. Game number 5, a best of 5 series that has gone down to the wire. Cash, this is the first game 5 that we've gotten in quite some time, just together on the casting desk. But for these two teams, we've already kind of laid out the scenarios for them going forward, in which teams need to win, lose, and whatnot. But again, in the simplest form, this is an elimination match. The loser will be eliminated from playoff contention here in the West. The winner will be able to move on, at least in the group, but not necessarily into the actual playoff just yet.
Yeah, so much on the line, and it's even scarier when a win may not even be enough. So, of course, both squads trying to show out and at least make the best case that they can, given the certain situations that we've broken down here tonight. But we find ourselves at 5-5. Miami getting slapped around a little bit in the hard points. Texas A&M losing a couple close ones in the search and destroy and the control. Obviously not trying to replicate a round 11 loss as they did in map number 2. Going to try to tighten things up here, but as we switch gears from Tuscan to Bacage, some interesting switches we could see is, quicker retake potential, though no team really played all that much around objectives. It was trading out and then big plays from some superstar players on either team. So interested to see if a more objective play comes in, given that it is Bacage. But again, so much to see, so many questions to ask, and we can only find out by getting in there.
Absolutely. And I think, it's only right to kind of talk about X factors coming into this game number 5. One of those players being Rando specifically had a great map 2 and 3. 1 and 4 weren't great, but really nothing was great for Miami inside of 1 and 4. So you go to a map number 5 here. Again, we kind of after map number, even after map number 1 was over, what did we say? This was going to be a 2, 3, and 5 series win if the Redhawks wanted to win it. This is exactly the circumstances that they're at. If Texas A&M wanted to win it, 1, 4, and 5.
Here we are. I mean, you can't write storylines like this, Corn. I mean, really, this
script writers are going crazy.
Apart from a 3-0, this is, like you had said, the best series you could have hoped for if you were either team. For Miami, of course, they had to make the adjustments. Coming in, on paper, with a few more wins over TAMU, technically the better hardpoint team, but they've made the adjustments they've needed, like you said, to push this to a 2, 3, and 5 series. For TAMU, you've come out and absolutely come out on fire against Miami, and now put yourself in a 1-4-5 fashion. For either squad, it's going to be a matter of who can mitigate the big plays from the other team and really capitalize on map positioning. Don't get away from fundamental S&D. Trade effectively and get the bomb down. We didn't see much of that in map number 2 when it went to around 11. I think whoever decides to play around that objective a bit more and just play fundamental S&D might find success a little bit quicker here.
And on the bomb, actually going to stay alive here, but a nade over the top might be able to take the player off the bomb, but it is going to go down. Just kidding! Blake with a nice nade on the Panda will open things up here with the first blood for TAMU Maroon. Deuce inside of the kitchen, looking around the right side. Beautiful slide challenge. We'll go ahead and make things a 1 versus 4. Rando was able to clutch a 1 versus 3 early on inside of the search and destroy on Tuscan. Here, though, on Berlin, there's a lot more uniformity and cohesiveness with Texas A&M here at the very end.
Blake with the read, unable to get the kill, but again, if you're all 3 players, no one really moved because, well, Rando's got to come and cover the bomb, or come and get the bomb. You've got Kitchen locked down, and they're just going to wait for not only time to run out, but for Rando to run into a pre-aim, and he's just going to back all the way down. So a great nade opened it up and mitigated the bomb from getting planted for Miami, and then players fell all around, and Texas A&M playing the kills very well in this opening round, at least. If they can continue to replicate that, it's going to be a very hard game for Miami.
Great way to play the bomb down situation there at the end for TAMU Maroon. Not getting over aggressive after that first pick came from Rando on the backside of spawn. So a nice way to get themselves on the board early on here on the Bacage search and destroy. That's a defensive round that goes their way. As we look for an offensive try though here from TAMU Maroon, they're going to try and replicate exactly what they did there. A beautiful first blood. Maybe get a bit more aggressive here on offense than of course we saw on the defensive side there. But those set nades have to be in. I just don't know if I love the play there from Panda to stick that bomb plant when he was already weak and he knew that a nade could have come over the top.
Yeah, you make a decision and you try to roll with it. Unfortunately, it doesn't pan out for Panda. So now on defense, they have to find a way to stop Texas A&M from getting any kind of map progression and really 50-50 across the 50-yard line of the map. A&M playing a bit more passive and Barn here for the time being, seeing if anyone for Miami gets aggressive. They like to do that in Tuscan. They're not quite giving that up here in Bacage. So I like how Miami has made little adjustments between maps 2 and 5. Trying to get anything out of Texas A&M. If you give them the room, they will get a little aggressive, and it pays off for Blake here. So A-site control coming in for Texas A&M if they can look to try to get one more pick and one more kill off this site.
And there was nobody to trade out Blake either. Even though you see Evil on the bomb site, he's playing inside of Grandma's and towards the bottom. Deuce realizes that Grandma's window hadn't been opened up yet, or maybe it got closed. So he has to throw the nade haphazardly over the top of the map. Deuce, one-on-one gunfight into Evil. That's the reason why he didn't challenge out the doorway. Didn't want to give away that positioning. So now it's a 2 versus 3. Bomb not in the hands of anybody from Tamu Maroon. And you have to slide back around the point. Evil with 1. Blake now in a 1 versus 3. Runs directly past Evil. Now you can play tag and mouse. Chasing from behind, cut him down. The Redhawks get on the board here in the S&D.
I like how Miami slow played that, like I had mentioned. They didn't get over aggressive where maybe A&M was expecting that. That lets the time clock dwindle down. Like you said, Blake played a great position and played in a position to be, unable to be traded out. Unfortunately, when teammates fall around you, you can't really capitalize on the map positioning you've won for your squad. So both teams responding appropriately on defense. No one quite able to get the bomb down, though some attempts have been made for either squad. Once again, for Miami, it's going to be a 4 hit over on this top side of the map. And for Texas A&M, it's a quick push through not only mid-map, but gate and into river.
Shots around Brewski. Oh my god, I thought maybe he snapped on the guy right there. But a 1 versus 2 now here from Rando. Much more doable than a 1 versus 4 that he had earlier on. And again, there is precedence for clutches here. However, as quiet as in the back line of the spawn side, Tamu Maroon are going to be able to win another defensive round here. So we've basically hand-shook 3 rounds back and forth between these two teams, with Tamu taking a 1-round lead here on the Bakash.
When it comes down to winning out kills in the round right now, Tamu do have the advantage, and you saw the player for A&M having slipped through. Rando just not able to account for that given how quickly things went down within that round. So with a 1-round advantage, it's going to be Texas A&M. Similar start to how we kicked things off on Tuscan. Both teams trying to get objective play in here in this game number 5, but unable to find success in that. Now a little bit more concentration and aggression coming in from Miami in the mid-map and at this A site. But Rando, as we know, as the main AR, likes to play that deep angle and waiting for a flank, but quiet. Also trying to be ready for it. Stagnant play here off this opening break.
Shoulders being thrown, but no positioning being given away from the defensive team. As the Redhawks have 3 players inside of the Grandma building, Texas A&M can now make their way up that north portion of the map. Each team just trying to go ahead for their first blood here. Blake sitting in a corner, Deuce in the barn. Again, nobody willing to give any positioning away on the offensive and or defensive side. Evil going to get some information here, sliding around the corner. You think that he might be playing there again. You get the information, but it's trades that go to the way of the Miami Redhawks. Tamu Maroon are going to be able to go at least make things a 2 versus 2.
Evil does such a good job in that site. Like you said, he thought he might be playing there again. He does, but he's able to get a kill before trading out. That's the least you can do being in that position. He does just that, lets the team be in a 2v2 situation. Pressure on Tamu to get this bomb down, and they don't have site control of either spot. Players for Miami split, so if they can isolate 1v1s, maybe they stand a chance, but you might see them check this B site. We see Rando making the rotation. If he can get eyes on, well, that could be huge, but he's not going to be able to. They end up finding him out, and now they need to figure out where one last player is here. It's going to be a split 2v2 retake coming in for Miami.
About 30 seconds left. Rambo starting to make his push on the backside. Brewski trying to create that pinch over towards this B site as well. I love how the side of the Maroon side have played this thus far. Deuce from the top will be able to come over and find that second kill. So in the 2 versus 2, the bomb goes down. You remain prevalent on the map, are able to go ahead clutch up there. Now it's a 3-1 lead here for the side of Miami, pushing it over, excuse me, for the side of Tamu Maroon. Miami on the flip side, though, are going to need to not only have a little bit more inside of the search and destroy, but key players such as Rando need to get going a bit more than they are right now at 1-4.
Absolutely, and I know we keep calling back to map number 2, but for Miami, it reminds me of the similar situation there. They were in a 2v2. They ran around back of P4 and back into P2 towards the B site. Traded out for the first one and got the kill into a 2v1 and then didn't there. Here they opt to play split from the jump. It ends up costing them. So for Miami, I'd like to see them in those 2v whatever situations group up a little bit more and play around the fact that they can trade these kills out. Either way, kicking things off here in round number 5. Brewski really aggressive, sitting in P3, trying to wait for anyone to cross through, and maybe got in for free. We'll see how these players end up shaking out as doors start to open, but Brewski able to find a big kill there.
You got him for free, but unfortunately it didn't last for all that much time, so it's one of those things where nothing in life is free. You eventually pay it in blood with your life. 4 versus 3, now the Redhawks with the advantage. Bomb going to go down at this A site as well. So now Blake is just going to try and throw a nade over towards that right side to get some information, maybe a pick for themselves. But this right now is looking like a great round for the Redhawks to be able to at least bring it back to a closer game overall. Quiet making a flank towards that north side of the map is just trying to find a few players, but nobody is willing to budge. It looks very similar to what Miami was looking like on the defensive side of things, but here comes Quiet. Going to be able to find the first. Another play in the middle of the map. 3 versus 2 now as you're trying to scramble all the way back to the site, but in the middle of Zig, Evil will find one. It's a 1 versus 3 here now for Blake, but unfortunately, Brewski on the staircase will cut you down. A nice round on the offensive side there for the Redhawks. It's only a 1-round separation of this game thus far.
And that opened up with Brewski getting through and setting P5, finding the first blood, and causing Tamu to have to having to panic whenever you have someone pushed up a little more aggressive than you had realized. Of course, that forces heads to turn, and you have to give up lanes that you'd initially wanted to lock on the defensive side. Miami capitalized on an offensive round, still with Panda sitting at 0-4, and if Panda can get rolling, as we've seen many times throughout the series, well, that's only going to spell for success for the Redhawks, but for the time being, they find themselves down 1 round, and A&M, they're back on offense. It's going to be a hit through A.
Steady, patient, waiting. Once again, Grandma's player number 4, Brewski, in a great position down over towards that B site to launch across in the middle of the map. Deuce, the first one pushed up here for Texas A&M, the furthest one up the map at the moment. But as you're playing this oh so patiently, you've already wasted about 40 seconds off the clock thus far, yet with no information on where any of the players on the Redhawks are.
And Evil doesn't play in that AS&D site, so they bully in and try to clear that out just for no one to be home. So the 3 players still up. Don't have to worry about anyone getting butted or traded out here, and the bomb is going to go down, but you've killed enough time and not given up any information. So for Miami, if they can find this opening pig, that could spell disaster on this round. Panda gets on the board with 1, and that could be huge here. Brewski's hunting. He knows the second one's here, gets a snap, and reaps his reward for that. Now with the pinch play on the site, this is Miami's round to lose.
Information on the players, though. Deuce is going to be able to find 2. 1 versus 2 here, there from Gyra. All the way back into Barn. You can hop the bomb if you so choose to here, but they're all going to chase over towards this site. Gyra from behind. The shots are going to be there from Brewski, who now is on 6 in a row. This is where the conversation gets different, Cash, because now that we're tied up at 3 apiece, you're going to be able to have that one kill that could swing the tide in the way of the Redhawks here in the S&D. And so as quickly as we go 2 rounds in a row for Texas A&M Maroon, we go 2 for the side of the Redhawks. Now you just got to play the baits here if you're the side of the Redhawks so you can get Brewski that streak.
And for Tamu, given that it's tied 3-3, maybe you opt to get a little aggressive here and try to get Brewski off the board early. Of course, you know they're going to be trying to bait for that. Maybe for A&M, you just roll the dice, try to get aggressive, and see if that pays off for you. Been playing passive here in the search and destroy. Who knows, aggression could pay off, but for the time being, it is going to be a 2-2 split, and they're not going to try to give up anything too early. It is aggression, though, coming in from Miami, and Brewski, to no forcing of anyone but his own, gets blooded.
You can't afford to have that happen when you're on 6 in a row. You want to get aggressive. Sure, you want to win the rounds for your teams, but that's a situation where you cannot be the first one to challenge around a corner. You have to let your teammates be there first. I get that you're confident, and I get that you have a lot going for you. It's going to be to no avail. Blake now on 2 in a row, tries to turn back around for the third, doesn't realize that the player is there, but now Evil knows where he is. Trade comes through. 1 versus 3, now a 1 versus 2. 45 seconds left. Bomb all the way towards the north side of the site, but it's near him at that A-bomb.
And this absolutely boils down to Brewski just getting over-aggressive. Not only that, but with an MP40. I mean, how many times are you going to chow around that low staircase with an MP40 and win those gunfights? There are not many angles you can take where that pays off for you. It's been in clutch situations of Miami having lapse of judgments that really costed them. It does here. Again, still search and destroy left to be played. Only down 1 round, but you have so much on the board that can really shift the tides of this game 5 in your favor, and it crumbles all around you. Instead, you let Texas A&M take a round off the board, and they find themselves on offense now with some momentum going their way. Just a big letdown coming in from Miami off that one.
See, now it's back to the aggression of things, but I mean, a pinstripe kill feed immediately after the fact comes through, but it's Brewski who gets that first blood on the board. You just wait and play a bit more passive in that first round, and it's going to be great for you, but and now you don't have a streak to work with, and you lost that round at the same time. So now you're down in the 3 versus 4 in terms of the overall round count for yourselves. It's a 2 versus 2 throughout the rest of the round. And now Texas A&M, they can just play a bit more passive here. Wait for the Redhawks to get aggressive, and then maybe make their way over towards that B bomb. But Blake actually might read this perfectly or get some bad timing. It's going to be one of those two, but reads that they're in the back. Have you ever read the first? Pushes all the way back. Now it's going to be up to the kill cam. Did he see him go all the way through the backside spawn? Player number 2 now making the route. Panda was able to have a 1 versus 4 the last time at the site on Tuscan in the control. This time, though, in a 1 versus 1 is going to be difficult with 30 seconds left.
But Blake does have a little bit of time to work with. Of course, he still has to gather the bomb and get that planted, but a little bit of time to work around here and make Panda start to question, okay, where could he have gone? Again, this is going to come down to timings and who's going to be ready for the gunfight. But with 15 seconds left, you're going to hear the bomb get collected. Panda now going to be aware that a play is being made, but
is he going to get there?
A-side's the only option, and I don't even know the time at this point.
I don't
think he does. Oof,
that is going to be so close. He might not be able to get it down, and he doesn't. It's a Redhawks win in the round that could have forced map point out of the side of Texas A&M. It's one little input that he missed that didn't allow him to get over towards that bomb site and get that bomb down. That means that we're tied here yet again in game number 5 in this best of 5 series. It's an elimination match between these two teams. You lose, you're out of playoff contention. You win, you'll need help. But right now at 4-4, the Redhawks need help, and that help needs to come in the way of everybody else besides Brewski. With a 12-5 performance, he is iced the hell up for your team. Texas A&M need to be scared here because they put themselves in a situation where they're now tied at 4 apiece.
And you could say that about either squad at any point in this series. It's going to come down to who has the heart and the mental fortitude to close this series out, minimize the mistakes. You can look at any sport across any genre of anything in championship time and in playoff season. It's going to be who can make the least amount of mistakes. Rando opens up with a huge first blood. Having a somewhat quiet game 5 S&D here could absolutely turn things around for the team, but as that's traded, Gyra finding 2. This round just got way more interesting.
17 seconds, 2 versus 2. Blake slides out around the corner. Panda's going to be there inside of the house. Gyra over on the tank has to have 1 versus 2 gunfight to take in front of him, and with nobody peeking out around the corner and him not willing to make a move just yet, nothing is going to happen except the Redhawks being able to take another 2 rounds in a row, give themselves to 1 round away from taking this series, eliminating Texas A&M Maroon, and taking this game number 5. Cash, this has been fun. It's been a weird series overall, but it could all end with a Cinderella story, in a sense, with the Redhawks being able to take game number 5.
It could, for how sloppy the hard points were for them. That's definitely something, you can look at and say has to be improved going forward if they are able to take this series. But like you said, feels a bit Cinderella. They had to clutch up in the maps that they won. They'd have to do the same thing here. Could close it out in a 6-4 fashion. And for Texas A&M, having so much pressure on you at this point causes you to clam up and perhaps play a bit too passive. Really, for Miami, hold your pre-aims. Tempo is in your favor. Let them make the first mistake and capitalize on that. Brewski has been so electric in and around the first blood column. Just activate him and let him do his thing. Play for information. He does just that in and around gate. Texas A&M, I mean, it's stagnant and they're playing very passive at this point. That could cost them given the time.
40 seconds off the clock. Audio cue is there for Blake as he breaks out a little bit more of the wood from the barn side of things. Nobody, once again, from the Redhawks willing to make that first move. Nobody wanting to push up the map here on defense. Everything relies on Texas A&M and how aggressive they will be here towards the A or B site. Bomb making his way over towards A. It doesn't look like they're going to have enough time to rotate back over towards B. First player going to slide on in. There's been a player in here every single round. Panda was almost able to be a one-man army yet again. But in the 3 versus 3, Deuce gets onto the site. Rando yet another nade. The last time it was Panda who stuck it. This time it might be Deuce's fault. He'll get cut down by the nade. 15 seconds left. 2 versus 2. Gyro looks out to the backside tank. Evil will find the shots on the 1. 1 versus 2 here from Quiet. Has to find these kills. Is able to find the first. Turns back around. Looks for the trade. Can't get it. The Redhawks will win map number 5. They'll eliminate Texas A&M Maroon, and they will say hello to a potential playoff berth in the Western region.
They get it done. Said it had to be in 2-3-5. They do it in that manner. behind performances. Of course, Brewski going 13-7, Evil going 7-6, and of course, I really want to touch on Evil for a second, though it wasn't the most impressive stat line. The information and the intel he got playing in and around that A-bomb side. I mean, you see 5 non-traded kills. Whenever he was active around that A side, it was very hard for him to get traded out. So Miami, they settle down, settle into the repetitions of how they need to. You get slapped around in 2 respawn game modes, but that doesn't seem to shake their confidence. They get the job done here. Texas A&M Maroon, you feel like that was your series to win. Unfortunately, can't clutch up in either of the search and destroys, and like you said, you bow out of the tournament. And for Miami, as much as it's celebration time and really excited that you took it, like you said, a potential playoff berth. And that is the magic of CCL playoffs, is that nothing is guaranteed. You get a win, it's a great win. Things still have to pan out for you, so the job still not done.
S&Ds win championships. Although this isn't a championship, this is definitely a start for the Redhawks. We said towards the end of those rounds, Brewski needed some help. What does everybody do? They step up when they were needed. A 6-4 win in the S&D guarantees them at least an opportunity to have a playoff berth going forward. But again, they still need some help, and the scenario is as follows. So since Miami was able to beat TAMU, they need to beat UCO or clinch, or rather to clinch, or TAMU beats Akron, leaving Miami to win the tiebreaker. This is all in Group C of the Western region. If you want to keep up with anything in terms of the CCL playoff brackets, you can do so by following us at College COD on Twitter, or going to the CCL website and eFuse's website to get all the information on teams, players, and whatnot that you need for the rest of the playoffs. But I mean, right now, you know, sure, Miami, you feel great about this, but again, needing that help is the real kicker here. So all that's in front of you is holding your destiny in your hands. If you beat UCO, you clinch.
That's all you need to do. You know, win another series, and you come out, you get Game 5 reps under your belt in playoffs. That's only going to serve to aid you as you start to extend this playoff run. So I'll take all the Game 5 experience I can get if I'm Miami. It's something that you can't get enough of in a real game situation setting. They come out and do that. I mean, yeah, for Miami, it wasn't great. I don't want to say that by any stretch, because they won in a 6-5 in map 2, 3-2 in map 3, and a 6-4 here. And they got blown out in the other respawns. So that just goes to show you that pretty scorelines can still get the job done. You do just enough, and it gets the job done. For A&M, again, you got to be kicking yourself with how well you played in those respawns. You just needed one to snag one other map, and it came down to a difference of 4 total rounds. So for A&M, I mean, that's the way the cookie crumbles at times. And for Miami, again, you do just enough to get it done. And like you said, players, when called upon, step up at the right time. So it works out for you if you're the Redhawks, and it still was a solid performance.
Fun series overall. The Redhawks will take it 3-2 inside of this best-of-5 series, an elimination match that they stay alive in. Cash, we go from one elimination match to yet another elimination match, because next up on the broadcast, the University of New Mexico takes on Nicholls State University in what will be a deciding match to keep those two teams' playoff hopes alive. My name is McCormiel. With me is Cash. We'll take things to a quick break. When we come back, an elimination match for the century and another best-of-5 series here to end out day 1 on the Bravo stream. We'll be back in just a moment with more CCL playoff action.